are the people of Mercury. I am your interplanetary host, Travis Montgomery. These views reflect one planet and one planet alone. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mercury's Cast. I am your host, Travis Montgomery. Today, I am joined by Sean Coca. And I know that I said in the beginning of the last one that we weren't going to try and talk about the election, which ended up happening for about half of the episode. And I think it's a good idea to get some people's reaction. And Sean, who we haven't heard from in a while, I'm excited to hear what he has to say about how everything went down. Very excited. Wonderful, man.
You make me...
I should have. He's a wonderful guy, fantastic guy. I love, and everyone knows it. I know it. Everyone knows it.
He's got all the best. Well, you know what? Whenever I do a Trump, I always drop into like a JFK. He's got some of the best ideas that I've ever heard.
You just gotta drop the Boston accent, and then that's pretty much Trump.
Look, we got a lot of good ideas. We're gonna get them done. We're gonna make them happen. We're gonna make America great again.
It's incredible. It's incredible. He's a fantastic dude. I love him. Hillary's a great woman.
She's a
strong woman.
She's a strong man. I would love to have her on my crew team. You know, if we're ever rowing across the Potomac, I'd want her right there at the front of the boat, you know, accepting all the bullets, protecting me, rowing the boat, being my spear, the tip of the spear.
Why not? Who better than Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
Well, at any rate, Sean, you have what's been going on with you? New thing. You got your own podcast now it's pretty entertaining, I have to say.
Yeah, it's not really similar to this at all. I host a podcast called Childhood Remastered with my buddy Chris, where we talk about cartoons and shows and TV and actually we're going to get into video games a little bit of our youth.
Ooh.
And see if they still hold up, how they look to a modern audience. One of the hooks is that Chris has a 2.5-year-old, and he watches all the shows with her and checks her reaction, and he works that into the show. But mostly it's just us geeking out over shows we used to watch 10, 15, 20 years ago. Some of the shows we never watched, and it's just we're learning things about child entertainment from 30 years ago, which is it. Most of the time it's entertaining. Sometimes it's painful. Like in the case of My Little Pony, that was very, very painful. The original one, not the new one that's super popular with sad boys, but the old one that was super popular with sad girls.
You know, sometimes you got to take a chance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Columbus did. Columbus took a chance. Why not?
Yeah, he took a chance, and he to exterminate almost an entire group of people. Good for him.
Well, so. Do you really believe that, or is that a joke?
No, it's. I think that's fairly well documented. I don't think we need to celebrate the guy. I'm not as like vitriolic, mostly probably because it's not affecting my heritage or whatever. But I mean, there's no real doubt that whatever the conquistadors and the people from Western Europe that sailed to the Americas, they did a number. I mean, they wiped out a couple of native groups. But what's the joke? What's the joke that Carlos Mencia does? He's like, Mexicans and Filipinos have a lot in common. They're all native peoples that were raped by the Spanish.
Huh.
That's why they all have Hispanic last names.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of raping going on at that time. It wasn't just people that were associated with Europe. I mean, and even if you were to fast forward to today, if America founded an island of some indigenous people that never had the internet, I mean, they'd be eating McDonald's and chocolate within 6 months, and they'd probably all be dying from that.
Yeah, but no, I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not saying that their lives were completely idyllic and that they didn't have their own problems. I'm just saying that maybe some of those people we didn't help as much as. Well, I'm saying that we, Columbus wasn't we. Columbus was
right.
European.
And
So was Pizarro. So was Marco Polo. Although he didn't come to America, he went to Asia, didn't he? He went to China. Marco Polo brought the Italians pasta from China.
No, he created a great social media app. I believe that was his best accomplishment, and a swimming pool game.
Yeah, I was going to say. I thought it was that swimming pool game.
Well, no, Marco Polo is a really cool app. I use it. Me and my wife use it.
What does it do?
So it's basically like it's kind of like Periscope and Snapchat put together. So you hold your phone and you say, "Hi, Sean. I think that post was stupid, and yeah, you're an idiot." And then you push send, and then you get this this video message, pretty much. And,
it's just another way for high school kids to send naked pictures to each other.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a video, and there's filters and stuff. It's kind of fun.
I am sometimes I feel so old. I am so not up on the smartphone app game and anything else. I can't remember the last time I added an app. Oh no, I lied. The last couple apps that I added to my phone were crossword puzzle apps, so I could do multiple crossword puzzles a day.
So you're in
that's my entertainment.
All right, you are officially old. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is to do crossword puzzles. New York Times, USA Today.
Really? I just like whenever I do one of those things, I just read the little thing on the side, and then after you learn what it is, I'm like, that doesn't even make sense to me.
You know what?
Like,
that's why I like New York Times. New York Times crossword puzzles to me are I mean, it's not just to me. I'm not the only one who thinks it, but they're the pinnacle because I'm usually good when I'm doing the New York Times one. The clues make sense. It can be ambiguous, but you end up figuring it out, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's what they were asking for. A lot of times when I do other ones, like local ones from newspapers, like the Orange County Register, LA Times one, a lot of times I find myself frustrated, like, oh, that was the answer? That was fucking stupid.
Like,
and
that's why I gave up on them.
Irritated.
I think it's a great mental exercise, but once you get down to what the answers are, it's like, all right, someone that was 75 years old created this crossword puzzle. And that, as sad
as if you do enough of them, you get there's consistent answers that usually show up in crossword puzzles like sandwich cookie, it's an Oreo because it has a lot of vowels, or burn soothing plant, aloe, because it has a lot of vowels. Like you get used to seeing those.
Right.
But whatever.
All right, to go back to the Native American thing, and I don't know how we got here, but I think this is kind of important for me. I think there's and not that I don't feel bad for them about what happened, and even continued people that try and neglect them. I mean, probably, I guess I'm one of them. But wasn't there a lot of at the time? There was a lot of that going on where people were crossing over borders and conquering people and like killing all of them. Maybe not even leaving anyone standing.
Yeah, you know what? I have a unpopular opinion. Well, at least I think it's unpopular opinion about at least the Native Americans in America, and that is, I honestly think that one of the worst things that America did to them, and they did a lot of bad things, but one of the really bad things I feel like that they did is they didn't sort of force them to assimilate. Like, you'll get people that like, oh, it's their sovereign land and blah blah blah, and that might have been true, but I don't understand why after literally the entire history of human endeavor in the world, why all of a sudden the right of conquest wasn't a rule anymore. So America, the problem is that they made treaties and they tried to like work stuff out. And all the treaties did was set up countless times where they were going to violate the treaties. So they said, okay, we'll give you this land and we won't bother you. And then, a couple years later, well, now we want this land to move to this other land. Done was just incorporate them into America. Be like, okay, this is America now. You're all Americans. Sort of like what they did with the black slaves with the 13th and 14th Amendment. It's like, okay, now you're all Americans. You're part of the culture. Let's integrate. Let's work your culture and your identity into the American culture. Instead, they sort of put them off on the side, like on a side pedestal.
Gave them all the
okay,
shittiest lands.
Yeah, and then just said like you're your own people, and then set up these reservation situations where they're weird self-sustained. They're not self-sustained. They're like government-sustained economies that it's just
right.
not a good situation. I think back to when I was in Canada, because Canada has Native Americans too. They call them First Nation. Town elders or tribe elders get paid by the government. They get a stipend of like $50,000 a year or something like that. And they're just setting up this false economy where the government pays for people to just exist. And I don't know if that's a good thing.
Well, and it's like, do you force them to assimilate, or do you just kill all of them? Like a lot of them going down.
I don't think they should have killed them. I think that because that's just horrific. Like,
I don't believe that either.
I think they should have. I think they should have incorporated them and sort of almost forced them to assimilate. Like, okay, this is America now. The problem was they kept the people in the Americans in the 1700s and 1800s kept promising them things that they couldn't do, like promising them that they could keep their own land and that white people would never come there and blah blah blah. And I think that was just setting themselves up for failure. They just should have passed and I'm sure it would have passed. They should have just passed something that said, you're all Americans now. Like, you were here, now you're Americans. And I think that would have solved a lot of problems.
They probably didn't want that either. They're like, F you, this is my land. You have no right. I am one with the spirit God,
Well, then you give them one of two choices. You say either you're all Americans or you're all on the ground.
Oh, you're all part of nature.
Yeah, you love the earth so much. Good, you'll be a part of it.
And also, we can't forget about what they were doing to American or whoever they were at the time, like scalping them. I mean, imagine having one of your buddies come back and his hairline's gone, and it's not from balding.
I worry about that myself.
No, you got a fresh crop, bro. You're straight.
Yeah, you don't see all the hair that comes out of my comb.
Well, just post it on Facebook, then I'll see it. I mean, I can't come over there. I'm in Bakersfield.
I keep that shit to myself. Except for right now, when I said
not anymore. Well, right on, man. This is so speaking of before we go any further, and Sean is going to join us shortly, and wants to the other Sean. Yeah, SH Sean,
not the correct spelling, Sean.
No, the correct spelling is actually SHWN.
Ugh. Man, I was drinking beer and I ran out of beer, and so now I'm drinking wine, and this isn't great. Whatever, though. Shiraz Cabernet Sauvignon Pinotage. It's a blend. I feel so hoity-toity.
If it's wet and it gets you where you need to go,
that can be said about a lot of things.
I'm not going to try and take that out of context. So speaking of Native Americans, the North Dakota pipeline.
Oh yeah,
I didn't get to that yesterday, but I kind of wanted to. We had actually a nice organic flowing conversation yesterday. I didn't have to bring up any of my talking points, and I don't feel like I need to right now. But since we're on a Native American type of discussion, it seems like
I think the most interesting thing about the whole thing is the media blackout. You don't hear about it. You have to go looking for it. You'd think that something like that would be on the front page of a lot of papers, but you don't see it.
CNN or something like that.
Yeah, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, on the front page of the New York Times and the LA Times and whatever. You never see it. You have to go searching for it, and you find like local papers or local websites.
A lot of Facebook, social media and stuff, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of one of those like, it's almost like an Arab Spring type thing where most of the people are communicating through Twitter and Facebook and wherever else.
So
it's just weird, right? That whole situation.
From what I understand is that they asked the tribe, the Rock Sioux Reservation, if they could build this pipeline through their land, and they offered them a lot of money. It was in the double-digit millions, and then the tribe counter offered for more money, and then the company said, "Okay, we'll just go around then." So now they built the intention is now to go around their land, and then that's why they're actually hopping over fences to protest the building.
So are they still going to be building on their land at all?
No, it goes around just like the southern tip of it.
Then I guess they don't, because the whole argument is that, right, that they had they were going to go through another North Dakota town or something, and the residents said no, so because they didn't want their water getting contaminated. So instead they went through the Rock Sioux land, and they were making the same argument, like, we don't want you contaminating our water on our land and our sacred land. So what's the argument now that they're not on their land anymore then?
That the pipeline could break and then contaminate their water.
So okay, so they don't want them to build it on another piece of land because they have reservations about the like contamination from another area. I mean, I guess I could understand that. I mean, the whole situation has been really screwy, right?
It's a crazy.
It's a private enterprise, right? That's trying to force its way on a bunch of different areas.
Correct. And from what I understand, and I didn't do any reading on it, but Sean Lindell did, who will be joining us shortly. Supposedly there's already an oil pipeline running through the reservation. So like they're concerned for it. It's kind of like a weird motivation, but I mean, you got to respect the people's right to protest. I mean, that's.
Yeah. And you probably shouldn't be spraying them with water when it's really cold. Maybe we should table that one until Sean jumps on, because I don't have enough information on it. I've only got like a cursory amount of information.
What do you think about and how funny is this? And let's jump right back into the election about the Hillary. Remember her concern during the debate about Trump not accepting the election results, and then now she's funding the.
She's not funding it though, right? She's just participating because that's her excuse, is that she's participating. Like if Jill Stein is going to do recounts, we might as well be there. That's basically what she's saying. We might as well be there to just see what happens.
Correct. Jill Stein.
You know what's funny? I've seen a lot of posts lately about how Jill Stein is the Ralph Nader of this election, because if you look at Trump's margins of victory in the battleground states like Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Ohio, it's less than 1% to like 1.5%. And then if you look at Jill Stein's numbers in those states, it's the same percentage. So if Jill Stein hadn't been running, then in all likelihood Hillary Clinton would have won in those states. So just like Ralph Nader in 2000 pulling votes away from Al Gore, That's what people are claiming she did in this election.
Well, a lot of people are also saying in the same kind of concept that the Bernie Sanders supporters just didn't come out and vote because they felt like Hillary Clinton stole their dude.
Yeah. No,
I think there's more of that has to go with Trump, and then maybe even Hillary finagling some shit. Do you think that that Hillary was working along the lines of corruption to try and get this thing in her favor? I mean, do you think that there's any finagling going on?
I don't think there's as much like a finagling going on. I honestly think that the reason that she lost is because what's funny is Bill Clinton is probably one of the, even now when he's 70 something, 75, he is still one of the preeminent like campaigning politicians. Like he knows what people think, even in his sort of weird addled condition that he's in now. I remember reading shortly after the election that Bill had told Hillary that she needed to campaign in those states, those Rust Belt states, your Michigans and Wisconsins and Minnesotas and Ohios and Indianas and all that she needed to campaign there because those people were hurting, they were losing jobs, and that they needed to know that the Democratic presidential nominee was going to be there for them. And she apparently was like, Bill, you don't know what you're talking about. You're way out of touch. They're going to vote for me anyway. Those are solidly Democratic states. They haven't voted for a Republican since Reagan. Come on, whatever. And Bill Clinton knew. He's like, no, you need to get there because those people are hurting. They all lost their jobs. They need to know that you're going to be there for them. You can't just assume that they're going to vote for you. Because what's funny is I was actually listening to the radio tonight, and they were talking about how Bernie won the primary battles in those states, a lot of those states like Michigan and Indiana and Ohio and stuff. He won over her because he was talking about stuff about jobs and punishing corporations for taking jobs out of the country and whatever else. And once Bernie lost, Hillary didn't campaign really in those states, and when she did, she didn't talk about jobs and outsourcing and the loss of manufacturing. Like that's the blood of that area. That's up in that Midwest, all by the Great Lakes. Manufacturing, auto, all that shit is their livelihood, and Hillary just ignored all that. And Donald Trump was the one that came in and said, you know what, this is bullshit that people are taking your jobs away. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to fight for you, blah, blah, blah. And whether or not he does it, he was at least talking to them. And Hillary didn't. And that's probably a big chunk of why she lost, because those battleground states like Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin, they're all the ones that have been suffering a lot because of the recent economy that people don't talk about. They lose their middle class jobs where they're making $50,000 to $80,000 a year, and what are they getting in return? They're getting like drugstore jobs where they're making $8 an hour instead. Like, how is that a good trade-off?
Right. And that's another thing. Hillary never said that she was going to bring jobs back to those people. And one of the things that we talked about last episode was how did America have its rise to power? It was through manufacturing, and now in today's world, it's a little different. But you can definitely say through World War I, World War II, we kind of became a superpower by manufacturing through, and then after that, by making pretty good automobiles for the time, until we got undercut, and then that's where Donald Trump comes in and says, "Hey, we're not going to stand for this outsourcing jobs anymore. The Trans-Pacific Partnership is really taking away from the jobs of Americans. We need crazy tariffs and international trading, or actually not eliminate them, but maybe make them more superior. And so this is his creating more jobs rather than getting a lot of these jobs outsourced, which, like you said, up there in the upper Midwest, those are the jobs that people relied on for years. People for decades created a great way of living through American manufacturing, which is not there now. If you look at Detroit, look at a lot of Michigan, the homes are overrun with vegetation. The buildings are empty. It's like a third world country. It's like a modern day apocalypse.
Yeah, and you know what kills me is, so if I had to describe my political leanings, I guess I'm more libertarian than pretty much anything else. But I feel like if the Democrats, and I've said this before, if the Democrats focused more on things that I consider matter, like jobs, like protecting the middle class, like trying to protect the average person in America, I might be a little bit more on their side. The fact that, and I've heard a lot of political commentators talk about this in recent weeks since the election, is that the reason that a lot of the political commentators have said that the Democrats have has suffered the greatest loss in terms of political power since the 1920s. They've lost more. They've lost more state legislatures and state governorships. They lost the presidency. Republicans gained a couple seats in the House. They
got everything now.
They control the House. They control the Senate. They control the executive.
Is that a coincidence? I mean, is that a coincidence?
Well, so I honestly think that it's a reaction by the living on the coasts. You're sort of, I think you're sort of immune to the coastal type of thinking, because I live on the coast. I've only ever lived on the coast. I live in California. I live in a red part of California, but it's the minority because California is by and large a blue state with a blue legislature. There's a Democrat supermajority in the state legislature, a Democratic. Basically, every statewide government office is controlled by the Democrats. So we live in sort of a bubble out here. And I feel like the same thing happens in New York, in New England, and in that upper New England, that upper like East Coast area, is that you're sort of immune there to the problems of the rest of the country, like the literal rest of the country, the other 40 states. You don't feel their pain because you're not there. You're not with them. You have a different mentality. So I think that's why this election was such a shock to people. You see those pictures and those videos of people on election night in the Hillary camp and in Los Angeles and wherever else, and they're crying. They're miserable. Their entire worldview has been shattered. They don't understand how a country could elect a person like Trump, because they can't get out of their coastal mentality, their coastal bubble, blue bubble mentality, that other people think differently, or it's not that they think differently, it's that they have different priorities. And the type of stuff that Trump talked about spoke to their priorities. Whereas the modern Democrat Party talks about ethereal, like intellectual ideas like gender and social justice and things like that they're real issues. I will grant they are real issues, but they are more ethereal. They don't matter to as many people as they think they do. And when something like that is your major platform, your major party platform, and that's what you talk about justice and racism and sexism and
late-term abortions.
Yeah, and how we need to eliminate these things from our society. That doesn't matter to the guy who's trying to provide for his family of 4 or 5 or 6 with a job there he's making $10 an hour. Where he got his job assembling air conditioners outsourced to Mexico. That doesn't mean anything to that guy. And I think that's the problem, is that the main branch of the Democrat Party thinks that those issues mean something to everybody. And that's why they were so dumbfounded that they lost. It's like, no, that crap doesn't mean something to someone who's trying to provide food and shelter to their family. It doesn't matter if you're trying to combat racism, combat the loss of jobs, combat the economy. Like the economy, the stock market has been going gangbusters for the last couple of years.
I thought well, and to speak on that point, I thought when Trump got elected, everyone was going to pull out, but exactly the opposite happened.
But even before that, the stock market had been having its ups and downs, but it had, for the most part, been going gangbusters. So you had
gangbusters. I'm sorry, that sounds like a negative term to me. I'm not.
No, you know what? Shoot, I can't remember where it comes from, but it means really good. Like the stock market has been going really good. It's been up high, and it hasn't had really a crash. Like there's been a couple corrections, but they haven't been. Okay. They haven't been like too bad. But you have Wall Street making a lot of money, which is essentially the coast. You have New York financial elites making a lot of money, but that 18,000 New York Stock Exchange number doesn't mean anything to the guy in Michigan, doesn't mean anything to the guy in Wisconsin, doesn't mean anything to the guy in Kansas or Texas or whatever that doesn't have a job. And right. I've read a bunch of articles since the election where people have been trying to explain the results of the election. And, I haven't, like I said, I've grown up my entire life on the West Coast in California in a very, very blue state. But man, I feel for these people. Maybe it's because I read a lot. Maybe it's because I watch a lot of varied shows. Maybe it's because I try and travel and get to know people. But I don't have to live it, but I get it. I get why they're upset, why they're scared, why they're angry, why people are just plain pissed off enough to even do a protest vote. Like there's one guy in this election who's saying, fuck all of this. And I'm going to vote for him because you know what? Fuck all of this. Just like Michael Moore said, I fucking hate Michael Moore, but he was absolutely right. Like this was in large part a protest vote because I guarantee a lot of the people that voted for him in those blue states were people that are like, you know what? Fuck the system. Fuck these guys. They've been in power for how long and they've done nothing for me. So fuck these guys. I don't care. I'm going to vote for the other guy because what have you done for me lately? Nothing. You're arguing about bathrooms and Target and you're arguing about racism. And then I was actually listening to something today on the way home from work where it was Kellyanne Conway and a couple of the people from the Clinton. It was at Harvard University, I want to say, where they were talking about basically the aftermath of the election. And the people from Clinton's camp were essentially telling Kellyanne Conway, who's Trump's election coordinator head person, they were essentially telling her, look, you got elected by racists. And she was like, are you serious? That's what you're going to say? Like, that's how you're going to play this, is that Trump was elected because of racism and sexism because America wasn't ready for a female president? Like, no. Trump wasn't elected because of racism and because of sexism. Trump was elected because the Democrats were focusing on the wrong fucking shit.
Yeah, they didn't.
And they have been for the last 20 years.
And Trump was speaking what most Americans want to hear about: jobs and the economy, international trade, while Hillary was going after issues that would appeal to more to people in big cities. And you keep saying coastline, but I think it was more the big cities. It was like the big cities versus the rest of America. And
yeah,
and I was a big, I was like, as we were going into the election, I was like, Trump's going to get more popular votes and Hillary's going to get more electoral votes. And it's going to be close, but Hillary's going to win somehow. I was actually completely wrong about that.
You know what's funny about the popular vote? And I've made this argument to people that have argued against the Electoral College is that the popular vote can literally the Hillary's 2 million or whatever lead in the popular vote can be almost entirely attributed to California. In California, Hillary beat Trump by something like 5 million votes. So her entire lead can be attributed to California. So I say, do you want California to determine the election?
No, we don't.
What you want?
We do not want that at all.
If you live in Arkansas, do you want California to determine the election? If you live in Alaska, do you want California to determine the election? Is the fact this election and the election in 2000 as well has showcased that people do not understand how our government works. We're not a direct democracy. Direct democracies are garbage. Like, do you really want just the most votes to win? So if everyone decides at some point that Hispanic people are a slave class, is that what you want? Is that that would be democracy? That would be democracy. That would be the will of the people, right? And we should obey the will of the people, because if the will of the people is that Hispanics should be a slave class, then why? Who am I? Who am I as a person to say that that's wrong?
Yeah, California has a greater population than Canada. The power that California holds, even with Hillary getting 55, for her to get 55 and still lose is a huge statement for general America, for what we want as a country, not just, 55, which they probably
she didn't. How much did she campaign in California? Nobody campaigns in California because they know that the state's going to go to the Democrat.
Yeah, she'll need to.
You know that you're going to get 55 votes. That's it. And what's stupid about the people that are calling for the elimination of the Electoral College is that the 6 most populous states in the union, they have more votes. If you just went direct democracy, they have more votes than the rest of the states combined. That's what you want?
Yeah, it's not fair for the country of the land. And I guess here's where the good argument for California, which there is no marginally good argument, but for California and Texas to kind of break off of the union, if there was ever a solid argument, it would be for that.
You know what's funny? I've been arguing. I stopped arguing with the people that want California to break away and be its own state, because to me it's a futile argument. Like, it's never going to happen. It is never, ever, 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 ever in a million years going to happen. And everyone's like, no, there's a possibility. No, we're going to vote on it in 2019. Okay, even if we vote on it in 2019, the people that voted in the Brexit, the Britain exit from the UK, or not from the UK, but from the European Union. That was a resolution. That was just the people saying, yeah, we'd like to. That had no legal binding authority on, yes, we're going to exit. But despite all that, there are so many factors that to me just scream that that'll never, ever happen in a million years. The fact that the ports of LA and Long Beach are in California pretty much negates the whole thing, because is the United States going to allow the 2 biggest ports in their entire country in terms of Asian imports? Are they going to allow those 2 ports to be annexed by another country? Fuck no.
Sounds like an international trade deal to me.
Yeah. Is California going to pay back the United States for all the federal land that's in California, of which there is a lot?
And what about the deficit that California has, which is, as far as the last time that I looked?
Yeah, I don't trust our as bad as our legislators are now. I don't trust them at all. Like our legislators in California bank so much on the rich and powerful bailing them out on every situation. They just tax the shit out of the rich and hope to pay for everything. But if I was a wealthy person in California and California decided that it was going to leave the union, I would know for a fact that they're going to come to me to basically pay for everything. So why would I live in California anymore? I would just move to Nevada or Oregon or Washington or somewhere that doesn't have a state income tax, which inevitably would balloon to something insane to pay for everything else because you wouldn't have federal income tax. So it would make up for it in state income tax.
And what would be left in California would basically be kind of a third world country.
Yeah, congratulations. You have a country, or you will have a country that has a ton of people who make less than the median income in the United States, because all the people that make over that would maybe live here, but would have their official residence in another country, which would be the United States.
The business tax in California is so crazy. I'm surprised that anyone still has a business here.
Yeah, California routinely ranks towards the end of the business friendliness of all the states in the union. To open up a business in the state of California is idiotic. I was actually talking about this today. Is one of the good things that Trump has said. I don't know if he's going to friggin' do it. Is he was talking about lowering the corporate tax rate. Because in terms of the industrialized world, the United States has one of the highest or the highest corporate tax rate in the entire industrialized world.
Really?
Yeah. Like, why would you open up a business? I can look up what the tax rate is. Let's see.
We have a fact checker that is viewing live. She's on the payroll.
Really?
I'm just kidding. That would be sweet, though, wouldn't it?
Corporate tax. Man, I spilled beer on my computer, and my space bar is sticky now.
Tonight?
Yeah, I did. When I was editing my podcast, I spilled beer on my computer, and now my space bar is a little sticky.
Podcast called Childhood Remastered. Go and check it out on iTunes, Stitcher, and any
wherever you get your podcasts.
Platform.
Okay, so we are, United States is the 4th highest, tied for third.
Can I take a guess? Can I take a guess on the ones above?
You probably won't get them, but yes, go ahead.
Norway?
Middle East.
Saudi Arabia?
Nope.
Qatar?
Nope.
Oh, hold on. Dubai?
Well, yeah, UAE. UAE is number one at a 55% corporate tax rate. Next is Chad. I didn't know they had any industry in Chad, but they're at a
Chad.
40.
That dude owes me $20.
Yeah, they have a 40% corporate tax rate. And then Puerto Rico and the United States are tied at 39%. What did you say? Did you say Norway?
I said Norway.
Norway isn't even in the top. So because
you can't even. All right, welcome, Sean. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm anti-Sean.
You're
anti-Sean.
Mega Sean.
He believes.
So
he's gonna play contrarian, I think.
So we're in terms of corporate tax rate, we're in the good company of Argentina, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Malta, Sudan, Virgin Islands.
We're talking about business tax.
Zambia, India, St. Martin's, Suriname, France, Brazil, Venezuela, Belgium, St. Lucia, and Cameroon. They all have the worldwide average for corporate tax rate is 22.9%. And we are at 39%. So we're 10% above that. No, we're 17% above that. We're at 17% above. So that's the question: is how do we compete in a global market when our tax rate is the third highest in the entire world?
You piss us off too much, we'll drop bombs on you.
I mean, I guess so, but that doesn't mean that they're going to pay us anymore.
Then we just take your shit.
I mean, that should be the way it goes.
That's pretty much how it goes.
And how do you get sticky out of your? Why is it just my space bar? Everything else is fine. My space bar is the part that's fucked up. God damn it! I use that the most.
Quit nutting on your keyboard.
I did, and I spilled the beer.
Oh, that's bad. You got to take that shit apart, clean it with alcohol and a Q-tip.
I can't take it apart. It's a Lenovo. It's all one part. It's like having a MacBook.
Is it a laptop or a?
Yeah, it's a laptop.
I've had half a pint of beer spill on a MacBook, and I fucking took it apart, cleaned it with a Q-tip.
Oh, maybe I'll clean it with a Q-tip.
You got to get under the keys, and then get some alcohol in there, clean that shit off.
That's the problem. The alcohol got in there in the first place.
Some rubbing alcohol, the kind that makes you go blind.
Oh, well, that's like any alcohol if you drink enough of it.
So what's up, dude?
What were we talking about?
Corporate tax rates.
Corporate tax rates. Yeah, America is boned when it comes to the rest of the world.
Oh, you can't explain that to anyone here, though, because they've just been told that corporations are evil.
Yeah, corporations are bad in there. No, I was talking about how Trump, one of the things that Trump said, I don't know if he's going to do it. One of the things that he said is he's going to lower the corporate tax rate, which would be amazing for American businesses because, like you said, most people assume when they talk about corporations is they assume that they're big, fat cats in tuxedos sitting in boardrooms making billion-dollar decisions when in reality, most of them are guys in blue jeans and a T-shirt making a decision on a business that's like 15 people in the middle of America building something that they sell online now. That's a corporation.
It doesn't really matter what Trump does when it comes to public opinion because there's going to be 50 to 60 million people that, he could literally single-handedly deflect an asteroid from destroying the Earth. There's going to be 50 to 60 million people that will say he was wrong for doing that.
I saw that movie. That was a good movie.
I said the same thing. I said that he could cure world hunger and stop all the wars, and people are still going to hate him.
I mean, look at
talking about Donald Trump, right?
Look at this carrier deal. He's not even the president yet, and he already went and negotiated with a company that was about to move.
Yeah, he did.
They're about to move 1,500 jobs out of the country, and he convinced them to keep over half of them in the country. He's not even president yet. He really doesn't even have any authority to be making these deals, but he still managed to convince them. And
did you hear that? I heard a clip on the radio today. It was a clip of Obama from, I think, back in June or April or something, where he was talking about that because that's what Trump was saying he was going to do. I'm going to go in and I'm going to negotiate and I'm going to make him stay here. And Obama was saying, what can he do? Does he have some kind of magic wand that he's going to go and wave his magic wand and make those people stay? No, that's bullshit. He's not going to be able to do that. There is no magic wand. And then he goes and does it. So
well, what he did was he promised them a $700,000 tax cut.
Well, which in terms of what it's a state tax cut. So in terms of what the company is going to spend in the state in terms of, or what the company has spent in the state in terms of payroll taxes and corporate taxes and all that, it's really just getting its money back. And if you save 1,000 jobs, that's 1,000 people that aren't going to be on unemployment in Illinois. So I think it's actually a net positive for the state, even with the tax cuts.
Oh, it's a net positive all the way around, but how could he give them a state tax cut? It would have to be a federal tax cut.
I think I don't know.
It wasn't a tax cut. It was a tax break. And I'm sure there's a difference. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure there's a difference. But regardless, let's say that it was just he magically waved a magic wand and now they pay $700,000 less than taxes. Well, you know what? He saved 850 jobs. That's the amount of jobs they're going to keep here that they're going to move to Mexico. Let's assume that those people all only pay $1,000 a year in federal income tax. I'm sure they pay more than that, but let's assume that it's just $1,000 a year. Right there, that's $850,000. So right there, we have a net positive of $150,000.
Yeah, and how long has Carrier been in Indiana? Like, how long have they been paying those taxes into the state anyway, in the state and the federal?
I mean, I assume the whole time they've been a company. I don't know how old of a company they are, but
I'll tell you right now.
Carrier, Indiana. I don't know. Everything in the news is about the Trump thing. And the other thing too about it is the parent corporation. That was one of the things that people were speculating that Trump was using as ammunition for the negotiations. Is the parent company, which is like CTC or something. They have $6 billion in government military contracts. People are assuming that he just said, look, you guys have military contracts. I'm going to be the head of the military. Maybe you play ball. Maybe you get next year $8 million worth of contracts or $8 billion worth of contracts. So,
or maybe you get zero.
Yeah. Or maybe if you don't play ball, then we go with someone else.
Yeah. But regardless, it doesn't matter what he does. There's a certain faction of people, I guess arguably a majority of people in this country that are going to hate him.
Californians.
A super majority of Californians.
Yeah. That's what we were saying before you came on is that Hillary Clinton, or let's say that's what I was saying, is that Hillary Clinton's her majority.
I align mostly with the way that you think.
Yeah. Well, then both of us. Yeah. So the majority of Hillary Clinton's popular vote totals come from California because she beat Trump by like 5 million votes or something.
I think even more than that.
Which is not a lot when you think about California having 35 million people. That I thought it should have been. I mean, if you think about it that way, she almost lost California. Even though that was a deciding margin in the election, she fucking lost California when you put it that way.
She won by 30 points in California. That's not almost losing anything. That's a landslide.
But if 5 million, when there's 35 million people, I mean,
let's see. She's currently in California. She's currently winning by 3.2 million votes.
What percentage is that?
10.
Donald Trump got 3.7 million and she got 6.9 million. So she beat him by 50%.
Which means most of Californians didn't vote.
Which would be by about 30 points.
The grand total would be about, out of the 34 million, how many people of voting age live in California? Because I know there's like 34 million people in California. That's not like the voting population. It looks like
it's probably 2/3 of that.
So the amount of people that voted in the election looks like it's about, that's 7 million plus 10 and a half. It's like 14 million people voted in California.
Which is probably a pretty good turnout.
Yeah. I wonder how many people would have voted. I mean, I personally know a lot of people that would have voted for Bernie Sanders had he been the nominee. I wonder how much of that was people that are like, nah, fuck it. Bernie's not here. I'm not going to vote.
I bet at least 2 million.
Yeah. Bunch of
2 million people didn't go out and vote because they felt like Hillary stole it from them.
Felt like? She did.
Well,
I forgot that. Did you know that Roseanne Barr and Cindy Sheehan were the Peace and Freedom Party nominees?
Roseanne Barr was on a podcast.
She ran 4 years ago too.
Yep.
They got 53,000, but almost 54,000 votes. They got more votes than the American Independent Party.
It was the Rogan. I think she was on Rogan, wasn't she, Sean?
Yeah. She's kind of crazy.
I'm
a fan. I am a fan. I don't care if she's crazy
I'm
or
a
not.
fan too, but she's kind of crazy.
You
Ron
watch your
Paul
tongue
in
now, damn
California.
it.
In California, Ron Paul got 21,000 votes.
For a write-in?
Yeah, he was a write-in. Ron Paul and Andrew Napolitano.
You know what, man? I went down a Ron Paul wormhole a couple nights ago, and I feel like
that was in 2012. That was in 2012. Sorry.
4
He
years
was on the ballot in 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was a write-in in 2012.
Anyways, Sean, are you
Apparently,
drinking a beer or
according to
is that soda?
Oh, no, it's Arizona.
So, hold on.
Yeah, he was in a Republican primary in
So,
2012.
I feel
but he
like-
didn't get the nomination.
What I feel like is that Ron Paul was the Donald Trump that we needed. Like, the people that voted for Donald Trump, if they knew about Ron Paul back in the reasons that people voted for Donald Trump, if they just knew back in 2012, then he probably could have gotten further in the election. And it was Mitt Romney that ended up taking the nomination for the Republicans,
problem is-
right?
Yeah.
Ron Paul was too old to run this time.
I don't care
I
how
still don't think
Bernie Sanders was
I don't
old as fuck, and people wanted to vote for him, and people are
Trump was
bitter about
70.
that.
How old was Ron Paul in 2012?
I think he was 72.
Ron Paul.
I still, you know what? The things that he says.
Oh,
he
shit,
might
he's
be off
81.
on, like,
Oh, yeah, he was fucking old then.
but
He's
still
81, so he would have been
he's still
70,
lucid.
76.
He's still
75,
lucid,
78.
in my opinion.
That doesn't mean he's going to be lucid for 8 more years.
Well, that's why we have a vice
That
president.
was. You know what was funny about this election is that 4 years ago, when McCain was the nominee, a big argument I remember hearing is that McCain is an old man. He is an old man. Do we really want such an old man president of the United States, especially if what's her face from Alaska, Sarah Palin, is his vice president, because it's basically putting Sarah Palin in because he's going to die. And how old was he in 20? Because let me see. I'm going to look it up because I don't think he was any older than Trump is now. Because Trump's 70.
No, I think he was younger than that. But
still, if you have a vice president that's going to uphold the beliefs of the current president, if he was in shape.
Okay,
You know, when he
McCain was 76, so he would have been older. But still, Trump was 70.
wait, he was
When Trump is
76 then, or he was 76 now?
Well, he's 80 now. He must have been 76 in 2012.
No, but he ran in 2008.
Oh, so he was 72. He was still older than Trump.
Yeah.
Ron Paul didn't run into. Oh no, you're talking about McCain.
I can't believe that John McCain got reelected. He's 80 years old. He's going to be like a fucking Strom Thurmond. He's going to be representing Arizona until he's 103.
John McCain is going to need a McCain for the rest of his life.
Yeah. I'm a little tipsy because that wasn't that funny.
Shouldn't have been as funny as it was.
I'm surprised he didn't make that joke 8 years ago.
I did. I just didn't have a podcast.
Audience?
Political diarrhea.
Oh,
We still get more likes than Mercury does, but whatever.
I just emptied an entire bottle of wine after drinking 4 beers.
Oh,
Well,
damn.
You're a big dude, so you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Big dude with big ideas.
That's what the ladies tell me.
Well, you're getting married, aren't you?
Yeah, that's what the lady tells me.
Don't do it. It's a trap.
Dude, no, I have to commend you. The way that you did all that with Iceland and everything and the Northern Lights, man.
Iceland is, if you get the chance to visit Iceland, and it's cheap now. If you there's a lot of discount airlines that fly there. Wow, we flew on Wow Airlines
On the big purple plane?
the big purple plane, and all of the stewardesses or air, what are they called? Air waitresses? I don't know. They're all wearing like
stewardesses anymore.
They have like
plane slaves. All the plane slaves are wearing purple. They're all wearing purple outfits. And there was one guy, I want to say he was gay. I don't know that for sure.
Hope he was.
I feel pretty confident in making that statement.
Statistically, he probably was.
You know what was funny is on the flight over there, there was was it the flight? Whatever. One of the flights over there or back. One of the stewardesses was Asian, but she was Asian, but she spoke Icelandic. Like she was born and raised in Iceland. So it was just really weird seeing an Asian woman who looked like she was Chinese speaking Icelandic, which is a very difficult language to learn.
Is it weird to see Asian people speaking English?
No, but it's weird to see them speaking Icelandic. I'll tell you that right now, because it's like But
believe it or not, and Sean, you probably already know where I'm going.
I would advise you don't go there.
I had an Icelandic. I had an Icelandic girlfriend. She was my high school girlfriend. I didn't get around in high school as much because of her.
What was her name?
Carlotta.
Oh, that's not as I was expecting an Icelandic name like Hergy or Brunhilde.
Yeah. Brunhilde.
They're all Vikings over there.
And it's the way the last names work over there is kind of weird.
Lots of consonants.
You're either a daughter or a son.
You're named
Thor.
You're named after your father's first name with son or daughter. So, like, your son would be Sean's son. That's his last name.
Yeah, they must have terrible memories. Because
you know what's crazy about
anyone's
Iceland?
Fucking name?
So, like, Iceland is a country of, I want to say, like 600,000 people, and 2/3 of those people live in Reykjavik, which is we drove all around Reykjavik. It's a big ass city. And then outside of that, it's the rest of the third of the country. Reykjavik is big, but it's not that big. So we spent a lot of time just driving for hours and not seeing anything because the country's a giant volcanic, like Mars.
But realistically, the whole world is like that. Like, look at the presidential election breakdown by county. There's like 3,200 counties in the United States, and Trump won 3,020 of them or something.
Whoa!
And he won half the vote.
Well, yeah, it's the whole big city. Every major city was pretty much on board for Trump.
No, it was the opposite. Every major city was on board for Clinton.
I mean,
and the rest of the country just voted for Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Los Angeles, Detroit, Dallas, New York, all those big cities voted for Clinton. All the cities with like millions of residents.
And so that if you just pause right there and try and unpack how that works out. I mean, here you have the major metropolitans who have been voting Democrat their whole entire life and not seen any good results from it. It's kind of curious to me why they would continue to vote Democrat when it hasn't exactly worked out for them.
I mean, that's the argument I was making earlier. Is that you have, specifically in like the Rust Belt, you have a group of people that have probably been voting Democrat for the better part of 2 generations or 3. Obviously, since the 1920s, they've been voting Democrat. And what has it got them in recent times? It's like, what are you doing for me lately? It's done nothing for them lately because they're still losing their jobs. They're still going.
What has it done for them ever?
Well, the argument I'm sure they could make the argument that because the Democratic Party was tied to unions, and unions in like the 1940s and 50s were getting them a lot of money and middle class lifestyle, that they could attribute it to that, and they would say, okay, we have loyalty to the union and loyalty to the Democratic Party because blah blah blah. But like now, when all their jobs are leaving and they have nothing to support their families with, they're like, okay, so what have you done for me? You're talking about separate bathrooms for transgenders, and you're talking about racism and sexism, but that doesn't help me feed my family anymore. So maybe I'm going to vote for the other guy.
Realistically, if people understood who they should vote for in their own best interest, no one would vote for the Republicans or the Democrats.
No party preference.
Well, that's why we need more than two parties. I think the two-party system does nothing but divide us as Americans, and it puts one side against the other, draws a line in the sand, and you're either on one side or on the other. And if you're on one side, then that means that you are against the other.
Yeah,
for the most part.
First past the post, first to the post, whatever that's called. Whoever gets to the certain number wins. It's bad times. I don't know if America would be able to embrace like a coalition style government, but I think that'd be a better situation than we're in now. I don't like winner take all.
I wish Gary Johnson would have gotten more support.
You know, he got enough support that they didn't. What is it? He doesn't have to pay as much to get on the ballot anymore, but the Libertarian Party.
The Libertarian Party gained 18 more states or something where they don't have to pay to get on the ballot anymore.
Yeah.
So that saves them $300,000 per state,
which is money that they can use to campaign instead of just pay to get on the ballot.
Yeah. You know what's odd is Jill Stein raised twice as much money in a week for this recount bullshit than she did for her whole campaign.
That's because she's playing on the stupidity of the Democrats that are holding out hope that Hillary Clinton is going to get elected because of some shenanigans by the Electoral College.
You know how many net votes Hillary gained yesterday?
Was it something like 25?
No, it was
or something.
It was one.
You know, I love that the Democrat, because that's the only people that are paying for this shit is the Democrats. I love that the Democrats are just literally throwing money away, throwing money into the hole that is Jill Stein. And
I see what you did there. That's pretty good, Sean.
Yeah. They're throwing money into her and getting literally nothing out of it. They're just like, oh, you're going to do a recount? Well, and what's funny is over the last couple of days, she's like, oh yeah, it's going to cost $2 million to do this. Oh, just kidding. They said it's going to cost $3 million. Now it's 3.5. Now it's 6. Now it's 7.5. Now it's 10 million. Now it's 12.5. It's like, do they not understand that they're getting bilked out of all of their money?
What is their ultimate goal, though? A recount?
To get Hillary Clinton elected. That is what, they are in such denial that Hillary lost. Their ultimate goal is to get Hillary elected by any means necessary. That's why you've got Republican electors across this country who are getting death threats and death wishes and all that shit because they are bound legally, morally, whatever, to vote for Donald Trump. And they're getting, the Democratic Party and Democratic officials have been publishing the names and addresses and email addresses and shit of these Republican electors. And so they've been getting emails and letters to their home and all kinds of bullshit saying, do not vote for him. Defy the will of the people of your state and vote for Hillary Clinton because it's the right thing to do. Because, yeah, that's democracy. Not that I care about democracy, but that's our system of government is the will of the people of whatever state should be overridden because your feelings have been fucking hurt. I'm getting a little more surly and drunk.
Which we appreciate immensely.
It just boggles my mind that the only it's like, what did the word liberal used to mean? The word liberal used to be right. The word liberal used to mean someone that was for liberty, for freedom and whatever else. And now it seems that word means someone that wants to impose a rule on someone. It's both, though. It's like the conservatives want to impose rules on people, and the liberals want to impose different rules on people. More
rules.
Yeah, the conservatives want to impose moral rules on people.
Well, okay, all right. Maybe Republicans can be
Republicans
for what you're trying.
Yeah, you got Republicans / conservatives that want to impose moral rules of don't get abortions, Don't it's bullshit. Drives me crazy. And then the liberals Democrats want to do the same thing, except they each side. It's what drives me crazy is each side has this like moral high ground that they try to take, but in reality, both of their positions are bullshit.
And both of their positions are majority of issues. They're the same. So
yeah, not necessarily moral. It's more party motivation. It's not for the good of the American people. It's more like a victory over your enemy.
Yeah, no, that's all that American politics has been for the last 20 years is I don't care. It doesn't matter what you believe as long as you beat your opponent.
Right.
Everyone just wants to be on the winning team.
Yeah, it really, really started with George Bush in 2000. That's where I feel like the divide happened, and it's like you're on one side or the other. And all that matters is if the Democrats get in power or the Republicans get in power. And it doesn't matter what they stand for. And all that matters is that there's a D after the person's name or an R after the person's name.
It started long before that. That's just when like people our age became old enough to realize the fuckery that was going on.
Well, I think in 2000 it became more prominent because the internet was more of a thing, and things like Facebook and Twitter and the blogosphere and all that bullshit, like it's more. I've noticed more now that the issues that come up, like I feel like before this, you could have an opinion on something, and say your guy didn't win in the presidency or the Senate race or whatever. It's like, okay, shit, he didn't win. All right, let's move on. Let's do whatever. Because you didn't necessarily know the opinion of the guy you worked with or your teacher or whoever else in fucking your community that they were so adamant about whatever. I mean, it was something like, Walter Cronkite was a freaking dyed-in-the-wool liberal guy, but you didn't fucking know that because he never talked about it. Nobody ever knew that about him. There wasn't like a Facebook or a MySpace or anything that he was, he would talk about shit on the news and then he would go home and be like, well, this fucking guy here, George W. Bush is a fucking blah, blah, blah.
He was a liberal?
Well, the other thing is that he actually did his job as a journalist and didn't give a fucking opinion pieces on every bit of news that came out.
No, that's the thing is that everyone's opinion now about every little thing is out there. Everyone knows everyone's opinion about every single thing that happens. So, like, what do you do? What do you do when, like, that's in the social media world of today? What do you do? I mean, I know what I do, but like, if you're 18, 19 years old and you're an idiot, like, what do you do when you're confronted with a viewpoint that doesn't correspond to your worldview? You immediately think that person is an idiot, and you think that person is a horrible person because how could someone think differently than I think? So,
or you go to Occupy Democrats page on Facebook and then start posting shit and start sharing shit.
So, like, you're an idiot.
That's what they do.
So, like, you're an idiot, and you don't know what you're talking about, and you just start posting bullshit. And then you get into that echo chamber, and you think that
there's
you're correct.
So much of that, and there's so much of even these universities where you would have people with microphones go and interview some of the Trump protesters, and what they're talking about is not making any sense at all.
So when I did journalism in college. That was my major. And I knew from an early on that objectivity is insanely hard in journalism. I actually went to one of my professors and I said, how do you be objective as a journalist? Because I'm a human being and human beings aren't objective. And he's like, well, it's something that takes a long time and you have to really work at it and you can be objective. And, maybe that was true, but I don't think people care anymore because in the age of social media, being objective doesn't get you views. It doesn't get you hits. It doesn't get you popularity. Being being subjective gets you that.
It gets you accused of being racist, is what it does.
Well, you you don't need to be objective about things anymore because the liberal slant of the media, and and I know that that's been argued for a long time, but as someone that studied the media, like it's there, and the arrogance and the bias of the media is there. It's just people in it don't want to. People in the media don't want to talk about it because they don't see it.
Well, people aren't even willing to have debates anymore, dude. I have a friend I think we're friends. He probably doesn't consider us friends anymore, but I'll get to that. I went to high school with this dude. We were like really good friends in high school. You know, we didn't really stay in touch much after high school other than like social media or whatever, but you know, now he's relatively intelligent. I mean, he's an attorney in Los Angeles. He's a public defender. You know, he tries hard for his clients. You know, he's the kind of person that I'd probably want as my attorney if I found myself needing a public defender. But that being said, he's a fucking diehard liberal. On every issue, he falls right into party lines, like just without fucking fail. Like I know he's smart enough to think for himself, but I think he just doesn't have time, or he's too lazy, or whatever. He just doesn't. He posts all this shit, and he gets very condescending about it, whatever. And anytime he gets called out, and I've called him out on things, and you start debating him on an issue, he just says, well, I'm not interested in having this conversation on my Facebook wall. Like one time I painted him into a corner and fucking pretty much proved him wrong on a gun control issue. And then he deleted and sent me a message saying, I don't want to discuss public policy with you on my Facebook.
Of course not.
And I'm like, oh, because you were wrong?
That's the main reason why.
You have no point?
Come on here and talk to me. Or
you know what it is? You know what it is that you have
talk with you.
What it is, well, in my opinion, what it is that you have people like, because there's an echo chamber now.
Take a deep breath. I think all right. It's okay. It's gonna be fine. Just take a deep breath.
I think it's the product of the echo chamber, because you have people that just agree with you, and so you think that everything you say is correct. When you yell into the echo chamber and you get the same shit back, you think that you're a genius. And I've thought this for a long time, is that people who have a viewpoint, that viewpoint becomes ingrained in them as a person. They like whatever their political or social or whatever viewpoint is, that becomes part of their essence as a person. So when you question that viewpoint, whatever it happens to be, whether it's gun control, whether it's free speech, whether it's racism or sexism or whatever the hell it is, you question that part of their argument. And it's not that you're just questioning that part of that argument. To them, you are questioning the core of their being, because that is part of them. So you're not just questioning an argument or a stance. You're questioning their worth as a human being. And that's, I think, why people get so angry and so vitriolic.
Yes, and this happens to me all the time. I'll play the contrarian role, especially during a Black Lives Matter protest video or something that goes along racial lines, and here I am to just present an counter argument, not necessarily. And that's where Facebook threads get a little wonky, and that's exactly why I started this podcast, to explain myself a little better. But so now you present a counter argument, and all of a sudden you're a racist, you're a bigot, and you don't understand the struggle. And it maybe that's true, but maybe I was just trying to see how far we can go with this discussion on how are you going to counter the counter argument. Basically,
the whole basis of rhetoric is the I don't know what the Greek word is for it, but it is the term for argument. When you're in a rhetoric class, it's a critical thinking argument class. The whole basis of rhetoric is that you have a thesis, you have an antithesis, which is the antithesis. So you have an idea, you have the opposite of that idea, You argue the two together, and the combination of the thesis and the antithesis creates a synthesis where you create a new idea. So the idea of creating new knowledge, of creating new understanding, is that you have one idea and you come at it against another idea that's opposite or a different idea, and in the action of arguing each point to each other, you come to a new understanding of the topic, of whatever it is. And that is like the core of argumentation, of rhetoric, of debate, of whatever it is. And that is completely lost now, because you have one side that argues one thing, and then now you have another side that argues the other thing. And they get together and they argue together, and then they just split up and they go back to where they started. They don't have any new understanding. Either side, neither side does.
And each side thinks that what they're arguing is absolute truth and that there's no other way that they could possibly be other than what they are arguing.
Exactly.
Well,
and if you think about it,
they frame everything as like, morally you have to have this viewpoint or else you're Hitler.
Exactly. Poe's law.
And it's fucking retarded. And you know, I think the left is worse than the right on a lot of aspects, because they take this viewpoint, well, enlightened people or educated people or well thought out people have this viewpoint. And if you don't have that viewpoint, you're either ignorant, you're racist, you're just uninformed and uneducated, and like they act like that's the end all be all, that no one who opposes abortion gives a shit about women. No one who believes in gun rights cares about people being killed. Like no one who thinks this has any feelings for other people, you know. It's just a thing to make them feel better about their own position. And it has nothing to do with reality. I was trying to explain to my friend yesterday how, on one hand, like I believe in donating to charities or even talking with him about starting a charity. And on the other hand, I don't believe in minimum wage or necessarily like certain types of welfare. And it's like the two aren't mutually exclusive. I believe in helping people. I just don't believe in robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like
you can believe that's what, like, I think I think a lot of the Republicans, the general Republican Party's problems is a problem of messaging, because for the longest time it's been the party of old white men who. And what's funny is the Republican Party has been seen as the party of old white men. But if you think about the leaders of the Republican Party, they're not. I mean, they're white men, but they're not old white men. They're
not all of them.
Yeah, they're younger white men. But if you think,
not all of them are white anymore either.
Well, yeah, but if you think of like the Democratic Party, which I've been railing against this last couple days because they just had their election. The leadership of the Democrat Party are old white people. They're all septuagenarian white people. The Democratic minority leader in the House is Nancy Pelosi again, and she's like 75. What the fuck does she know about anything having to do with like the younger generation? The Democratic whip is like 70 something, and the Democratic Senate leader is like in his 70s. Like, that's what kills me about this shit, is that like the leaders of the party are people that don't know anything about
anything.
I was gonna say, it sounds so stupid. It's like they don't know anything about the modern struggle of anything, and yet the Democratic Party is ostensibly the party of like the working man and the people who the average Joe and the middle class guy, and really all of the leaders of the Democrat Party are old rich white people
George Soros.
Oh, Lord.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Do you guys think he paid for Trump protesters?
Oh yeah, I think Trump.
I mean, probably at some point in the beginning, the people that were protesting his rally. I don't think he paid for the people after the election. I don't think he had to. But I would definitely say some of those people protesting at rallies when Trump was being nominated that were paid.
So if he's capable of paying people to protest at Trump rallies, then where does his capabilities stop and end? I mean, who knows what the hell he was doing someone with that kind of power?
I don't think it's a matter of is he capable of paying for the protesters now. I think it's a matter of would it be practical, or I mean, would it be a good way to spend his money? And I don't believe it would be.
But when you have that much money and you're trying to influence an election, then isn't that a?
But the election is over, and he has that much money, which tells me he's smart enough to know that. But who knows? Sorry, I'm looking for somewhere to plug in my phone. Then my headphones aren't gonna fucking work. Fucking iPhone.
Yeah, you need the double dongle.
Actually, yeah, I do. Sean Coca.
I just haven't bought one yet.
I have an iPhone 2, but I have an iPhone 6, so it doesn't. It still has the. It still has the phone jack.
Not mine.
I actually got to be right back.
I can't find it. Where's the headphone jack?
I've drank a lot of liquid, so I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll be right here.
I'll be looking for somewhere to plug in my fucking phone.
So, Sean, I have a question for you.
I might have an answer.
Is there really an oil pipeline running through the North Dakota Rock Sioux tribe land?
Not running through the tribal land, no.
But it's pretty damn close.
I think the closest it comes is about a half a mile.
So, what about the new pipeline? Is that similar?
The new one.
Yeah, but you told me at one point that there was an old one that ran through there.
Yeah, it runs right into a natural gas pipeline.
So it's a natural gas pipeline.
The new one is not a natural gas pipeline. The old one is a natural gas pipeline.
And it runs through their property?
No.
Runs just on the outside, kind of like the new one would.
It comes within a half a mile of a very fucking extreme northeast corner of the reservation.
Well, they were offered $56 million from that oil company to run it straight through their reservation, and they turned it down. And then they wanted more money, which the company counteroffered and said, hey, we don't need to run it through your land at all. So then they ran it on the outside, and now this is where the protests are going on. They actually had to the protesters have to actually hop a fence to get into the Army Corps base property to do their actual protest. And which we don't really care.
I don't think the property is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. I think it's private property. But my point on this is pretty simple. I don't have a problem with the pipeline necessarily, but I do have a problem with the way the protesters have been treated. So
it's crazy to me that the protesters have been treated that way, but like it's a private company, right? That's trying to put in the pipeline, and that
I think it's a conglomeration of companies. And it's not actually the oil companies, because it's illegal for oil companies to transport oil. So it's actually transportation.
That's what I'm saying, is that it's a private company, but then like public officials are working with the private company to like shit on the people that are protesting it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I have a problem with the way the protesters have been treated.
Theoretically, though, if you want to just talk on a theoretical level, if you want to look at the BP oil spill and how dangerous it is to transport oil via tanker or even by train, where we've had just recently in the last couple months somewhere where a train derailed and it was a huge oil fire. I mean, basically what it boils down to is the best way to transfer oil, whether you agree on
by mouth, orally.
The use of energy, it's by enema, and it's
I'm sorry, though.
You blow it out of $1 billion, asshole, and then there you go. It's the safest way.
Do you at least put a funnel on the asshole so it all gets in there?
I mean, it's a complicated issue because, yeah, oil pipelines can leak, especially if you don't build new ones and stop using the old ones.
So can assholes.
And you know, all right, so they shut down, and this is going to be, this is not actually a comedy take, but this is actually real life, is that they have shut down the process of the building for 1 week so that they can look for Indian relics in the ground. And if they find Indian relics in the ground, then they might have a justifiable position to stop this company from doing that.
Let me tell you about some bullshit Indian relics. I went to Long Beach State, which has a part of the campus that is apparently, big air quotes, Pavugna Indian burial ground. They hold a powwow there. That's their word, not mine. Powwow there every year.
Fucking racist.
Because they apparently have, it's their Indian. Okay, so here's my whole thing about Indian burial ground. If you find a shit ton of skeletons, then okay, maybe it's an Indian burial ground. I'll buy it. I'll buy the shit that you're selling. It's an Indian burial ground. If you find one skeleton, that is not one skeleton does not make an Indian burial ground. That means that some fucking guy died while they were marching somewhere and they just fucking buried him. That is not an Indian burial ground. If you find two
marching somewhere,
whatever, if they're going somewhere, it's somebody. Yeah, damn straight, Trail of Tears. No, if somebody just died in the process of going from point A to point B and they buried him, because what else would you fucking do? Are you going to carry the dead body so you can go to the... No, you're going to bury him there because you're not going to carry a goddamn dead body. That is not a burial ground. That's what kills me about this shit. Like, they dig...
How do we even know it was a Native American? How do we not know there was someone that died on the Oregon Trail?
Exactly. Oh my God. Like, the shit like this kills me, where they're like, no. Like, you get some guy who's not a scientist, who's like a tribal elder that pops in and it goes, no, that is that right there. That's our ancient sacred burial ground. I read. No, fuck bullshit. Bullshit. I call bullshit on you. Because that's just a skeleton in the ground. That could have been anybody, anything, anywhere. You can't claim that skeleton as your own. That could have been literally any other tribe in the United States that just happened to wander right there.
I think
this is where Squatting Squirrel died.
I think we should all just move back to Europe and just give them the whole country back.
Yeah, what would they do with it?
Well, I think we found out
there's not many of them left.
To turn Coca into a racist.
What we already talked about earlier, how I personally think that one of the worst things that America ever did was pretend that those treaties mattered. They should have just absorbed and what did I say? What's the word? Absorbed and whatever. Absorb those people. Don't pretend that you're going to give them their own land. Just.
Well, you were saying that we kind of should have forced them to assimilate a little bit.
Assimilate. That's the word.
Which is an unpopular opinion.
Assimilate those people. You're Americans now. I don't care what you were before. Now you're Americans, because that's what's happened literally for the entirety of history. Oh, the Huns came in. You're Huns now. You're Huns now. Whatever you were before, you're not anymore. You're Huns.
If not, then they wiped out the whole entire population. I mean, that could have been an option where we just kill them all. And
we're all going to interbreed.
And now we don't have to worry about them being American.
What?
Yeah, we're all going to interbreed.
What are you guys talking about?
That was an option. We could have killed them all. Instead, we gave them their sovereignty. We gave them some of the shittiest land.
That's the option you would have preferred.
I'm saying the option I would have option. The option I would have preferred was assimilation, interbreeding, and incorporating them into what America was. I think that pretending, because that's what it was pretending to give them their own land was a bad choice.
The majority of them have. Why do you think there's so many people that are like, I'm 132nd Cherokee?
Well, great.
Well, that's me.
Great.
That is exactly me.
You know why they care that they're 132nd Cherokee is because somehow, some way, they get some benefit of being that, because because they get like discounted state tuition at
or they get brownie points on Facebook,
or they just get brownies. I want a brownie.
You don't want one of my brownies, brother. I'll tell you that much.
I actually have a penis cake in the kitchen right directly behind me that my fiance made me before she left on her bachelorette party. Ooh. That I'm going to eat tomorrow. She made it for me.
Is that how it's supposed to work? Like, I thought she was supposed to take the penis cake to the party.
Well, she had to test out the penis form, whatever it is.
She's making the cake for her own bachelorette party.
No. This is for a friend of hers. She's the maid of honor in a friend of hers' bachelorette party.
I thought this was for her bachelorette party. I was going to say
no.
It's too soon.
No. No, she made a cake for me to test it out, and then she made a cake for her person that she's the maid of honor for. So I have a cake in the kitchen that says Sean's. It says Sean's, and it's the shape of a penis. So it's my penis. So I'm supposed to offer people a piece of my penis this weekend.
So it's like 3 people a mouthful. 3 people.
So you're having a penis cake party?
I am having a penis cake party. Anybody that wants to come over.
Thanks for the invite, dickhead.
I should actually take the computer. Hold on one second. I'll show you it.
I think Penis Cake Party is a good name for a punk band. Just me.
I don't want it to fall off, but there it goes.
Penis flying everywhere.
Sean's penis cake right there.
Oh, okay.
That does not look like a penis.
Well, it would without the frosting.
That's not what my penis looks like.
Well, I can't
much
help
darker than that.
My penis is much bigger, to be honest with you.
You both have gangrene and gigantism.
I prefer elephantism.
Elephantitism?
Elephantitis. What was your time?
That's my favorite comedian. Elephantitis. No, wait, that's Christopher Titus. Never mind.
Christopher Titus is your favorite comedian?
It's not really. It just worked with the joke.
You need to step your game up.
How?
When was the last time you listened to stand-up? 1997?
No, 2004.
Bill Burr's pretty good.
I was going to say Bill Burr.